Hello and welcome to the fourth Ulster GAA webinar on technical proficiency, kicking for scores with Tony Scullion. This series is in association with O'Neill Sportswear. The webinar is being recorded and will be accessible shortly on Ulster GAA YouTube page. The chat box is available for any questions or comments during the presentation.
Good evening, coaches. As Oisin, thanks to Oisin's facilitating this session tonight. And as Oisin said, coaches, if you have any questions during the session, just text in the chat box, and Oisin hopefully will get some of the questions answered at the finish up. It's as Oisin has said, it's our fourth of a set of 6 on coaching the skills of Gaelic football coaches. And there's an old saying, a picture paints 1,000 words. And you might see the 2 pictures up at each top corner of the side of each screen, and a former county, one former county player and a current county player. And we're talking, as I say, our subject tonight is kicking for scores. And if you see the way the head, they talk about the head, hands, feet, and it's like a golfer. They maintain it's a game I never played, but they maintain if you lift the head too quick, the ball will not go the way you want it to go. And it's the same thing in Gaelic football coaches. You have to keep the head down when you kick the ball. You have to keep the head down and say count 1, 2 before you lift the head. If you lift the head too quick, then you'll slice your kick. So as I say, that picture's on the left, the head's down, and the one on the right, as I say, his eyes are on the ball. So it's so important. This is, as I say, our fourth one. We have 2 more of these skills coach ones to deliver. One on the 10th of February, catching, and then crouch lifting and blocking on the 3rd of March. So again, if you look at the 2 pictures to the right hand side of the screen, the one up the top was the outside of the boot, and that man was excellent at that, Kieran MacDonald. And down here you have, of course, David Clifford kicking the ball, as I say, the head down over the ball as he's kicking the ball. So the content tonight, again, is coaching the skill, breaking the skill down, putting it together again, spotting best practice and fixing it, fatal flaws coaches. It has been talked about in the first few webinars we've delivered on this. There's players who might not do the skill by the coaching manual, but they're perfect at it. They're brilliant at it. So why should you change them? Why should you change them when they're able to execute the skill properly? And as I say, it might not be by the coaching manual. So I know players, past and present, who wouldn't maybe do it by the coaching manual, but they're perfect at it. So you don't change them. You do not change them. It's just in case there's some lad or girl, the skill breaking down all the time, and maybe they're executing it the wrong way, then that's the time you fix it. So where does skill development start at? The skill development starts fundamentals. And I'm sure you have all heard about the fundamentals. Children need to get they need to go through the fundamental stage. The fundamental stage, it can be different for different boys and girls, whatever. It's usually from roughly 3 or 4 to 7 or 8 years of age. And that agility, balance, coordination is so important. The ABCs, the running, jumping, and throwing, large ATs, so important that they're getting those skills. And of course, the 4 skills of our Gaelic games: catching, passing, kicking, and striking. So all them skills are so important for the kids at an early stage. If you haven't got agility, you haven't got balance, you haven't got coordination, as I say, running, jumping, throwing, them's the wee skills that they need to have. Yes, you can put the ball in, you can put the sliotar in, but them sometimes, as you see that wee photo to the right hand side of your screen there, and you see kids going through ladders and hopping over hurdles and going round wee cones and whatever, dribbling the ball there with their right foot and left foot, whatever. Them's the skills that all kids need to go on to the next stage of learning the game. So the fundamental movement skills are the foundations for sport-specific skills. They are so important. Skill development. Sports skills are best taught when the coach knows the observable components of the skill. The coach does not have to be able to execute the skill. As long as they're able to observe and they know the components of the skill, that's all. You don't have to be a great player in the past or presently to be able to coach. Absolutely not. So, as I say, the coach doesn't need to be able to execute the skill, but they have to put a spot and fix. Just spotting and fixing coachable moments and praise is so important. Giving feedback about skill to performance, instruct how to modify the bits that needs correction. Teach us one component of the more difficult skills at a time. Don't be putting 2 or 3 skills in, maybe in a one drill or whatever. If you're focusing, say, for example, on the block or the kicking, but we're focusing on the types of kick for scoring, then, as I say, don't be trying to do 3 or 4, maybe in the one drill so just take it nice and easy, and as I say, do one at a time. There's an old debate going on about the game and whether to coach. You might have seen some of these slides, as I say, in some of our other presentations, coaches, before I move on. So if you have, you'll have heard me talk about this before. Coaches talk about whole, part, whole versus part, whole, part. What we mean about that is, a lot of coaches now, whenever the players arrive at training, the young boys and girls, whatever the case may be, they start with the game. And then they look at the game and they see what might be going wrong or what's breaking down. So they take it onto part. So they work on the part through drills or wee activities, and then they finish with the game. I know a coach very well, and he was telling me there a few years ago he had a problem getting the young boys out on a Saturday morning, say I think he told me 11 o'clock. They were arriving at 10 and 11:15, and just one Saturday morning happened just to tell them, right, if you're there in time next Saturday, we'll start off with the game. And he says it was the best thing I ever said. He says they were there at 10:30. They knew they were getting the game at the start. They were there. They were before this. They were coming, and this coach was telling me that he was doing a lot of drill work and maybe only having 10 or 15 minutes at the finish up for the game. So the kids weren't too worried about missing that first part. So what I'm saying, that's an idea for you. Start off with a wee game, and as I say, the kids will be there for you, and they'll be back for the next session too, because kids love games. Yes, you have to do drills. Yes, you have to do activities, coaches, but don't forget about the game. Time to master skills depends on the individual's ability. Some players will progress quicker than others, and that's right from an early age right through. You see players not playing, getting on academy squads or county minors, and yet they'll be on the county senior team at 20 or 21. And I know a number of players myself. It happened myself, believe it or not, in my own career. I never got a trial for Derry minors, and my first debut for Derry was, for football, was on the 21 level, and I never got a trial for Derry minors. I played hurling for Derry at a young, but I never even got a trial for Derry minor footballers when I was 17 and 18. And luckily enough, I still made me work harder to get through and get on the day. So I know a number of players like that. So players, as I say, learn at different times. The quality of the coach is so important. As I say, they'll learn a quality coach. That's coaching properly and spotting and fixing, then they'll improve on their skills a lot quicker. And again, individual practice, time spent at home, time spent away from the GA field, maybe, by themselves, out in the back garden or out in the field or whatever the case to be, out practicing. You can't beat that. You cannot beat that. The kids have to practice. Even older players have to practice themselves. The idea model, coaches, before we move on to skills here, this is just a wee simple idea for you when you're coaching. Use the word idea. Think about that. I for introduce, introduce a skill that is very easy to understand. D is for demonstrate. And again, I'll go back to the coach doesn't have to demonstrate. He can use one of maybe the better players to demonstrate the skill. but it's up to you to get the key points across. Execute, again, as I said to you, the coach or player can execute the skill in the form or drill activity, and then attend. The coach will provide feedback. That's the key. Spotting and fixing and giving good feedback and giving plenty of praise. You can't beat praise at any level. Okay, we're going to go on to the videos here, coaches, and you might have seen a few. You would have seen a few of these videos when Roger Keenan was delivering the one kicking for possession. But tonight, this is kicking for scores. And the first one we're using here is the punt kick. And the punt kick, as I say, Roger could have showed this one when I was doing the punt kick. But the punt kick can be used for scores too. Even though I'll show you with a wee bit of stats later on here that the punt kick is not the most popular kick now in Gaelic football, especially for scoring. And sometimes from play it's not as used as much, but we'll talk about that after a wee while. So watch the punt kick context here through the laces.
Went so high. This is Lally. Listen to the level of crowd now roaring him on. It's on towards Alan.
Coaches, just before we move on to the next slide, the punt kick, it's maybe used mainly more for scoring for goals now. Through the laces, toe down and through the laces. As the boy says, hard foot, tighten up your foot and gives you the power for the goal. So the punt kick is used a lot for scoring goals. So we'll just move on here and look at the coaching points for the punt kick here, coaches.
Here we see the punt kick being performed by an elite player. Note the position of the head, hands and feet. Now let's look at each of the key teaching points for the punt kick. Hold the ball firmly with both hands. Head down, eyes on the ball. Release the ball into the hand at the kicking side and extend the opposite arm away from the body to aid balance. Step forward with the non-kicking foot. Extend the wrist and drop the ball onto the kicking foot. Kick the ball with the instep, that is, the laced part of the boot. Keep the toes pointed. Follow through in the direction of the target.
That's the coaching points of the punt kick. The commentator said there he used the reference through the laces, used the reference the instep as kicking the ball. Now, to me, I don't know about yourselves, but the instep would be the inside of the foot for me. Through the laces would be the hard foot. So just be careful when you're coaching that. As I say, to me, the instep is the inside of the foot, and maybe through the laces is through the laces. It's not the instep. He used the instep when the ball was being kicked through the laces there. So again, we'll just move on here, coaches.
Here we see
these is common errors. This is errors what you watch out for, coaches, to fix spotting and fixing. So these are common errors which can happen when players are trying to execute the punt pass, especially in the early stages.
Lifting the head too early is a common error when learning the punt kick. This can lead to miskicking the ball and sending the ball in the wrong direction. To correct this error, encourage the player to continue to keep the head down, focusing on the point of impact until the follow-through is complete. Dropping the ball from the opposite hand to the kicking foot is another common error when performing the punt kick. This can lead to the player kicking the ball with the inside of the foot and misdirecting the pass or shot. To correct this error, ensure the player drops the ball from the hand at the kicking side and extends the opposite arm away from the body to aid balance. Not keeping the toes pointed and not following through in the direction of the target is a common error when performing the punt kick. To correct this error, keep the toes pointed throughout the kick, following through in the direction.
Okay, coaches, I'm just stopping it there. So I've stopped the video because there's a couple of wee things I want to point out here. There's one wee error that happens that the commentator didn't sort of touch on there, and maybe you have it figured out. If you do, put it into the text box, and we can talk about it to finish up. But there's one wee error that he talked about there that he didn't talk about, and which I think, especially with younger players, have a habit of doing it, and when they're doing the punt kick. And as I say, if you've caught on what it is, and maybe I'll touch on it now anyway, it's throwing the ball up before they drop it. Just when they have it in their hand, some younger players, I noticed, they throw the ball up a few inches out of their hand to let the ball drop onto the foot. So if you think about it, coaches, if you throw it up, then the ball is further to go down to your foot. So there's less chance of hitting the sweet spot, of getting that kick correct. So as I say, you just drop it out of your hand. Lower your hand down and drop it as if you're dropping the ball off a shelf, and it just drops out of the hand down onto the foot, which is a shorter distance to go, and you have a better chance of a more accurate kick pass. And also, before we move on, coaches, I want to touch on another wee thing. The commentator talks about the toe going in the direction of the ball. Now, yes, that's correct, but I'll show you in a wee second. The toe, whenever you're kicking for a goal, the toe can't rise. The toe is pointed towards the ground because you want to keep the ball low. If you're doing a punt pass in a match, then you don't want the toe way up like Stephen's toe is now, because, well, if you make contact with the ball roughly halfway down there and the toe's pointed up, the ball's going to go up in the air. So you sort of want the toe sort of angled, not directly towards the ground, but just in an angle that it's going to the nice height for your teammate, chest height or whatever, bouncing in front or whatever the case may be. But as I say, if you're going for a point, then yes, you want your toe pointing up when you strike the ball, then the ball will rise. If you know what I mean, coaches, please. So we'll just
lifting.
We'll move. There's the coaching card, coaches. As Oisín said to start, this presentation will be available afterwards. See, those are there's the coaching points for the punt kick, and these are on the GA website, so you can get them in the Crow Park GA website, coaches. So it's good to have, as I say, good to have them wee pointers. So okay, in fact, I took out a wee point there. You might see a wee blue box there, because again they were talking about the instep, hitting the ball the instep, which the instep they were referring to through the laces. But I like, my phrase would be through the laces, and the instep to me would be the side of the foot. Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, these are a few pictures that I got, coaches. Maybe we'll explain what I'm trying to explain to you there. See, if you see this one to the top left here, do you see the way that fella is kicking the ball? He's going for the goal. Do you see how the toe is pointed towards the ground? This is what I was trying to explain there a second ago. Do you see the way the toe was pointed? Just an impact of the ball, his toe is pointing towards the ground. That's to keep the ball low. If that toe was pointing up, that ball would be maybe rising over the bar, but he's driving the ball low. Likewise, over here to the right, top right, again, going for the goal. You look at the impact, right when the ball's leaving the foot, the toe was pointing towards the ground to keep it low. And down here again, the ball's already left the foot, but whenever he was making contact, that toe was pointed further down towards the ground, if you know what I mean, to go for the goal. So that's what I mean about, if you're going for a point, when you're making contact, your toe will be pointing up because you want the ball to rise. If you're doing a kick pass or a punt pass, then you don't want it that low. You don't want the toe directly towards the ground, but you want it angled up that the ball's going at a nice height for your teammate. So that's what I was trying to say, coaches. So we'll just move on here. Right, we're looking at the hook kick, and the hook kick, coaches, I'm going to tell you now, because this is kicking for scores tonight, and I'll prove to you after a wee while, because there was a wee bit of stats done in the matches there this year. The hook kick and I'm sure you should say that, you should know that the hook kick is the most popular kick when you're going for a score, for a point in Gaelic football. The hook kick is the most popular kick. So we'll play this wee video.
Here's Cannibal. They're probing, waiting for the right opening. O'Neill. They lead by a point. Oh.
What a score, Darren. That's incredible for a man who had shot 7 wide. You would think the head would be down, but
points the difference. And still another minute and a half of stoppage time to be played. Lovely relaxed style, good technique by O'Sullivan, who's a great footballer.
yeah, they have to impress their halfback.
The hook kick is a kicking technique used in Gaelic football. It is predominantly used to shoot for points, but is also used to pass to a teammate at an angle to the player in possession.
Aidan O'Mahony cutting inside. Another one. Garrity once again. 45 metres out, and it's been a feature of their scoring. I'd say 4 of those 5 points have come from distance.
Kelly holding it up. Going to have a go. The angle difficult. The crowd like it. To that, it's broken kindly for James Masters. Can go left or right. He'll go himself, Masters. He's sent that one over.
Players around him, has to go back outside. Pressure on O'Brien. Dunnach O'Connor available. O'Brien takes a shot, and it's over the bar.
And a beautiful ball punted into space that time. Michael Frank Russell running onto it, got in front of Michael Punt, and again the confidence is beginning to rise with Michael Frank in the last couple of moments. And that was a real
line, but he's gone back in as Graham Garrity got his possession. Tries to cut this one in. Oh.
That's unbelievable.
Just watch the angle here, Kevin. So we're just a few metres out from the end line.
Well, when I was looking at it, I was saying, what is he swinging his leg at that one for?
Okay, coaches, very popular kick, as you would know, going for points in Gaelic football. So we'll look now, we'll move on, and we'll look at the coaching points for the hook kick here. Just watch the coaching points.
Here we see the hook kick being performed by an elite player. Note the position of the head, hands and feet. Now let's look at each of the key teaching points for the hook kick. Hold the ball firmly with both hands. Point the shoulder towards the target. Release the ball into the hand at the kicking side and extend the opposite arm away from the body to aid balance. Step forward with the non-kicking foot. Extend the wrist and drop the ball onto the kicking foot. Kick the ball with the inside of the foot.
I'm stopping it there, coaches. Do you see the way Stephen's head is down there over the ball? And just watch, he doesn't lift his head till the ball's on its way over the bar. That's what I'm talking about, keeping your eye on the ball. Don't lift the head too quick. Before you drop that ball, coaches, which is some maybe I haven't touched on, but it's maybe not, the first thing you do, while you're passing or scoring, you have to look up for the target. You have to look up for the goals. You have to look up for the player. After that, you coach your players to keep the head down. Focus on the ball till the ball's on its way to you. No point lifting the head too quick. Whenever you make that contact, as I say, count 1, 2 before you lift the head, or count 1. Don't lift the head whenever you're striking the ball, or it will not go the place you want it to go. So see the way Stephen's head is down, and we'll play it again here. Also, another wee thing, the commentator's talking about the arm to keep balance. What else does that arm do? That arm does another very, very important thing. It keeps away opponents. If opponents coming in from that side to tackle you, it'll give you that wee split second. It'll keep him away from getting the block in. So we'll play it again. Just watch the head.
Follow through with the kicking leg across the body in the direction of the target,
head,
with the toe pointing upwards.
Very good. And yes, the commentator said the toes pointing upwards. Yes, you're going for the point. You want the toe upwards. Going for the goal, the toe will be down, pointed towards the ground. Going for a pass, it'll be angled between the two of them, between up and completely down, to get a nice chest kick. I hope you understand what I mean by that. So we'll move on.
Here we see
and here's the common errors for the hook kick. These are things that can go wrong.
Not pointing the shoulder towards the target is a common error when learning the hook kick technique. This may lead to inaccuracy in the pass or shot. To correct this error, ensure that the player's shoulder is pointing to the target before taking the kick. Dropping the ball from the opposite hand to the kicking foot is another common error when performing the hook kick. This can lead to the player overhooking the ball and misdirecting the pass or shot. To correct this error, ensure the player drops the ball from the hand at the kicking side and extends the opposite arm away from the body to aid balance. Lifting the head too early is a common error when learning the hook kick. This can lead to miskicking the ball and sending the ball in the wrong direction. To correct this error, encourage the player to continue to keep the head down, focusing on the point of impact until the follow-through is complete.
Okay, coaches, that's well explained there, the commentator. Again, remember what I talked about, the player there is dropping the ball into the hand. As I say, some players, I've seen players, drop it, throwing the ball up a wee bit before the ball goes down. So make sure they don't throw the ball up, they just drop it out of the hand. Lower the hand down slightly and drop it down. The less space between hand and foot, the better chance of making the right contact with the ball. It only makes sense. If you throw it up, then it's further to travel to get down to your foot. So okay, we're just
not.
And there's a hook kick coaching card. All the wee pointers that the commentator has been saying there, coaches. So we're going to go on now to the outside of the foot, the swerve, and you're going to say, Tony. It's not one that is used. No, it's not. It's not one that is used, but the way Gaelic football's going and bodies behind the ball and less space in the scoring zone. If a player's got a kick, the thing about the swerve kick, you can kick further with the swerve kick because it's the hard foot. You're kicking with the outside of the foot, but it's the hard foot. I talk about the crumbled up toes and the hard foot, tightening up your foot. It's a hard foot you're using, so the ball's going to travel further for you. So, players, if players practice it, they can become good at it, and they could take scores from further out. So it'll force the opposition to come out of that scoring zone because you're shooting from outside it and you're scoring points. So what I'm saying is, it's worth practicing. It's absolutely worth practicing. So we'll watch it here.
Bypassing McConville, lazily forward by John McEntee. What a lovely play outside to MacDonald. Ball was moved forward a little bit, I think, for arguing the toss, and that's gone over the bar.
The swerve kick is another type of kicking technique used. It involves striking the ball with the outside of the foot and is predominantly used when attempting to score from an angle to the goalposts.
Now it's played to Brian Dewar. Ryan McMenamin up with him. Dewar! Oh, fantastic! What a point!
MacDonald can be such an influence. As usual, giving a very liberal role in the side.
Sean Armstrong. Corey Joyce. Joyce fancies this. The confidence is up. That is just top draw. One of the best points you will see in any game.
That is a delightful strike that time from Corey Joyce.
To close the gap again. MacDonald. Cutting inside, or thought about it outside of the boot. That is so difficult to come off. Brilliant technique. MacDonald with the 5th point.
Okay, some great scores there, coaches. Okay, we'll move on now to the coaching points of the outside of the bit.
Here we see the swerve kick technique being performed by an elite player. Note the position of the head, hands and feet. Now let's look at each of the key teaching points for the swerve kick. Face slightly across the goal. Head down, eyes on the ball. Hold the ball firmly with both hands. Release the ball into the hand at the kicking side and extend the opposite arm away from the body to aid balance. Step forward with the non-kicking foot. Extend the wrist and drop the ball onto the kicking foot. Kick the ball with the outside of the foot to swerve the ball, curling it between the goalposts. Follow through in the direction of the target. Keep the toes pointed.
Okay, coaches, we're just going to move on now to the penalties. It's a big important role too in scoring. Being able to score the penalty.
The Galway goal, it's John Hayes, the 19-year-old, who will take the penalty kick. Hayes against O'Donoghue. Okay,
I'm just stopping it there, coaches. I'm sure you realise already this video work that was done at Croke Park has been done a number of years ago. So you might see the penalty kick being taken from the 14-yard line. Now that's changed. The ball is on another couple of yards close to the goal. So, but it's the same context.
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely superb.
Just low, right to the corner. Very little that young O'Donoghue could do for it, even though he anticipated it very well. Top class strike.
A penalty kick is awarded when an opponent commits any foul inside the small square or an aggressive foul inside the large square. Penalty taking is a specialist skill, and the responsibility is always delegated to certain players.
Beautiful height for 11 minutes played. Hayes for Cork, and it's gone in. There was a little bit of space, a window of opportunity. The goalkeeper will not be happy. O'Neill for Tyrone against Cluxton of Dublin. A lot of cheering and booing, which is not welcome. Will it put him off? Oh, what a fantastic penalty. You go a long way before you see a better one. Cluxton.
Okay.
The Galway goal.
Coaching points to the penalty. Again, it talks here now, coaches, about taking 6 to 8 steps back. Well, I would say whatever the player is comfortable with would be the key.
Here we see the penalty kick technique being performed by an elite player. Note the position of the head, hands and feet. Now let's look at each of the key teaching points for the penalty kick. Place the ball well. Take 6 to 8 paces back and stop. Decide where you are going to place the ball. Head down and begin running forward. Place the non-kicking foot beside the ball, extending the arm at that side out for balance. Keep the head down. Strike the ball with the laces of the boot for power or the instep for accuracy. Follow through in the direction of the target.
Okay, coaches.
Here we
Right, okay. I'm gonna move on here. I said to you at the start, we're doing well here, coaches. We'll be right up very shortly. Owen McNichol, who's the sports science officer for the Ulster GA, done a few stats, done brilliant stats for the 2 All-Ireland semi-finals this year and the All-Ireland final, and I'm going to share them with you. And it was all to do with we were looking at the hook kick, and because the hook, as I said during the presentation, the hook kick is well, it's not the only kick, but it's the high percentage one that all players use now, and this proves it. So we'll just move on to the semi-final stats here between Dublin and Cavan. Right, as you see up in the top right here, this is a Cavan crest. So this is a Cavan shots against Dublin, and there's where they took the shots from. The green circles the score, red's away, yellow is short, blue, there's no blue in this one to save a block, and the purple one is the post. So if you see there, that, as I say, this is against Dublin. And what I would say about that here is, hold on, coaches. I'm gonna, if I can do this, I'll draw this, and maybe you'll agree with me, and maybe you'll not. That this is roughly the scoring zone in Gaelic football. Well, roughly, maybe not, roughly around that area there. Well, it's not. I'm not the greatest artist, coaches, at drawing semicircles, but if you look at that there, that's roughly around the scoring zone in Gaelic football. So, if you look at that, Cavan scored 7 points. They got inside that area. They scored 7 points. I think the score that day was 124 to 12 points for Dublin. But Cavan got 7 points inside the scoring zone. They hit another, as you see there, you hit one to them other 5 from out with, decent kicks. So well, if you look at that in there, and these over here, they're not bad kicks. That in there was close enough to the scoring zone, I'd imagine. So, and then when you look outside that, coaches, and hold on, wee man, Ty, till change this here. When you look outside that, red, that was a shot. Now just look at that. That's the 14-yard line, the 21, and the D is, and this is a 45. So Cavan just had one attempt from just on the 45, which went wide. And if you look at these other ones, 1, 2, 3 from outside the scoring zone, wide. They got one over the bar, which was a good kick from the right-hand side. There's a couple yellows, 3 yellows that drop short. So you see how important, coaches, it is to work the ball inside that scoring zone, because there's very little shots from outside it, and there's very little, the percentage is not good, success rate from outside that scoring zone. Yes, as I say, Cavan got a few. You could really say, as I said to you, that was on the side of the scoring zone or whatever. That's a good kick there. Them couple good kicks, but as I say, the percentage rate's not great from outside that semicircle. So we see now. I'm just going to show you. Just stay with me, coaches, here, if you can. Right, we'll move on here to Dublin. This is Dublin on the same day. Dublin scored 124 against Cavan. Now, if you look at that, and you take in the scoring zone roughly, if you agree with me here. Roughly, maybe even be out a wee bit further out towards the 45, but that's a bit roughly the scoring zone, coaches. Look how many scores Dublin got within the scoring zone. They don't shoot hardly outside it. They had one there that was blocked or saved, whatever. There was one kicked short. There are 2 misses out to the left here, but the rest, yes, you're going to say. Yes, Tony, that yes, they had a few misses inside the scoring zone too. Of course they had. They had a couple of drops short, kicks from the 21-yard line. But most of their scores, them there must have been the goals or passed in with a hand, whatever, or kicked in. I just can't recall the game now, but just while I'm talking to you. But as I say, most of their scores, Dublin worked the ball into the scoring zone. They will not take this low percentage shot from outside the scoring zone, and that proves the point. That's it. They work it back and forward till they get within, and that's why they get so many scores. And so that's just just a wee graph. I think it's very interesting, coaches, that there. So hold on now. So I'll go out of that and we'll move on, coaches. Right, there's the overall picture of the day. That's the overall picture. There's Cavan. Cavan on Cavan down here. That was Cavan's shots from in both halves. Owen put them all into the one side of the field here, but that's the area where they took the shots from over the whole course of the game, and there's the Dublin ones there to look at. So you can see in that graph how many shots Dublin got with inside the scoring zone. And Cavan, when you look at Cavan, Dublin kept them out of the centre zone pretty well from scoring. They had to take their shots from just on the edge of the scoring zone or further out. So I think that's a very interesting graph. So we'll move on to the next one here, and there's it done out for you. This is all their kick shots, not their passes. This is all their shots on the day, Dublin and Cavan. I'm sorry, I might not explain to you. These here might have been punts outside the boot and hooks, but most of them was hooks, okay. But this here will tell you. There's Dublin v Cavan. Dublin had 34 kicks of goals was using the hook kick. They had only two punts. 34 kicks were hook kicks for scores. 2 punts and 2 they might have been hand passes over the bar or maybe palmed in for a goal. Cavan had 22 hooks, no punts, no outside the boot or the swerve, and no hand. And then when you look at the success rate, Dublin's success rate with the hook kick that day was 62%, and Cavan was 55%. So hopefully that's some use to you. It just shows you how big the hook kick is now in Gaelic football. And there was a question maybe was put in before the night when somebody was registered and they were asking the question about the ladies football. And funny enough, I was looking at the Cork Dublin All-Ireland final in the ladies, and the punt pass would be used as much as the side of the foot pass when you pass the ball, and also for scores. The hook, I don't have it in front of me, but the hook was used. The hook kick for scoring was used a lot that day. I was just looking at the game, and as I say, the hook, the inside of the foot, the hook was used a lot by both Dublin and Cork for scoring. In fact, most of the scores was in that Dublin and Cork ladies football final. The hook kick was used, but the punt pass, they used through the laces a lot for passing the ball, if you know what I mean. So we'll just move on here, and then we'll go on now till Mayo and Tipperary. And I'm not going to dwell as long on this one. There's the Mayo shots against Tipperary in the All-Ireland semi-final. Mayo scored 520, and I'm sure them ones at the green, the goals or whatever. But again, I don't want to waste too much time here. But if you draw the scoring zone again, whatever, most of Mayo scores against Tipperary was inside the scoring zone. Now, as I say to you, that's the 14, 21, and that's the 45 out here. So there wasn't a shot from outside the 45 Mayo took, or near the 45. All the shots was within reasonable distance of the goals. But there's very little chance of shots taken now, if you know what I mean, by the very good teams. And as I say, if you look at the yellows there, they drop short. The 2 reds out here wide. So the ones that weren't successful were the ones were outside the scoring zone. Yes, you're going to say there's 2 Tony was missed there. Yes, and there was a few blocks and all that, and there was one hit the post or whatever. But most of the scores was in the scoring zone. So that's okay, and we'll just move on, coaches, and we'll go to our next one here. And this is Tipperary on the same day. And again, if you noticed, a lot of Tipperary shots was from the right side of the goals. And this is This is both halves, if you know what I mean, putting on the one graph. The area of the field, the full game, the area of the field where the shots were taken from. So most of Tipperary's shots were centre to the right of the goals that particular day. Again, if you look out here, the ones further out the field were going wide or dropping short. Yes, they missed a few inside too. Yes, there was a few saves and blocks inside the 14. But a lot of the scores, I say, within the scoring zone. Okay, and there's the overhead of both teams. The full match. Mayo to the left and Tipperary to the right. Again, if you look at Mayo's, a lot within close to goals. Tipperary is a lot more spread out. Well, Tipperary is a lot more spread out. What I might say, I'll go back to that again. A lot more spread out, but Tipperary still got a lot within the scoring zone that day too against Mayo, believe it or not. I think that particular day, if any of you can mind watching that game, I don't think Mayo went out all out attack that day. I think especially in the second half that day, they didn't really play a defensive system as much that day as would play normally, maybe against Dublin or whatever. And they went out, they were going man to man a lot of the stages in that game, more so than other games. So that's maybe the reason why Tipperary got into the scoring zone a lot. So we'll just move on. And there's a breakdown here in the graph. Mayo had 29 hook kicks for scores, and Tipperary had 4 hook kicks. Mayo had 4 punts for scores that day, and Tipperary had 5 punts. Mayo had 1 outside the boot and 4 with the hand. Maybe some of them was palm goals or hand pass points. Again, if you look at the success rate, 66% to Mayo and 58% for Tipperary. Okay, and there's the 2 semi-finals together there. There's the 2 graphs. There's the Dublin Cavan, the top, and the Mayo and Tipperary at the bottom that I already shown you, coaches. Right, All-Ireland final. There's the Dublin shots. Now, you might say Dublin scored 214 in All-Ireland final. You're going to say to me, Tony, there's only 15 green dots. There's one missing. There's 1 score missing. There is 1 score. Maybe there's 1 over the top of the other. I'm not too sure. But there's only 15 dots. So there were 16 scores. There's a score 214. But it's near enough. It's 99.9%. So what I'm saying is, do you see all the scores again for Dublin? Again, coaches, if you look at it, if you look at the scoring zone again. If you look at the scoring zone again, most of them shots are within the scoring zone. The ones just outside were going wide or whatever, but Dublin again are shooting, and as I say, the scoring zone could be a wee bit wider than that there too. In fact, all their scores could have been inside the scoring zone. So they don't take many pot shots for luck, Dublin. They work the ball, that's all I'm saying. So they work the ball till they get it into the right zone. So we'll look at Mayo here. It's not an interesting one there, coaches. All to the right of the goals in both. No, as I say, this is a full game. Most of Mayo's shots that day was from the centre to the right of the goals. I don't know what was the reason that was Dublin. With Dublin making them go to the right or whatever. I haven't, thought deep into it. But again, as I say, a lot of the shots again, if you want to throw it out, a lot of the shots, as I say, would have been, if you throw it out there, a lot of the shots was inside the scoring zone, but a lot of them was still central to the right. So yes, you see out here that these ones that went short and wide, slightly outside the scoring zone, you could say. So right, we're nearly finished, coaches, and any questions we will take here. So that's the overhead on the day, coaches. That's the overhead again of both teams. To the left there is Dublin, and to the right is Mayo. And again, as you see the Mayo's there a lot to the right side of the goals. Dublin's is more central. Got the ball worked into the scoring zone, whatever, and they're from both sides. So that's that game finished 214 to 15 points. So it was 16 scores to 15. Dublin hit the 2 goals, but they were, as you all know, 2 great teams. And so Again, there's a breakdown. Dublin had 17 hook kicks going for scores, and Mayo had 19. Dublin had 2 outside the boot and 2 with the hand. Mayo had a punt, an outside, and 2 with the hand. So what I'm saying to you is the hook kick has become very, very, very popular. Well, maybe you'll say it was always popular, but it's very popular for the score now. 65% Dublin had, and Mayo had 63 on the day. So takeaway messages, and we're just finishing up here, and we'll take any questions that come in here. We'll take a few of the questions. So, importance of being good at the skills of the game is so important in the first touch. And as I said at the start, coaches, the windows of opportunity, don't miss that 3 to 4 to 7 to 8 year olds, whatever, fundamentals. Important. Every club should have a fundamentals program set out for the young ones. And as I say, you can take in the ball for a bounce around or going around a hurdle or hopping over a hurdle or whatever it is, or going in through ladders, or just getting their agility, balance, and coordination. As I say, you can bring a ball into a wee light ball, bouncing the ball into a hoop, left hand, right hand bounce, left hand bounce, right hand bounce, getting them used to both sides from the early stage. A young one will be able to bounce the ball. Maybe the toe tap would be too difficult for them at that stage, at the very early stage, but whenever they're able to master the toe tap with their stronger side, get them onto their weaker side without, as I say, without always make sure they're enjoying themselves. Don't persist some night and thinking that this your wee boys and girls have to be in the weeks. Not at all. Just always have them, encourage them to practice on their weaker side. But as I say, get their strong side, and that fundamentals stages, as I say, it's not all about the football or whatever the case may be. It's just about getting the movements. Simplify the matches and let the kids play. It's important. At whatever age, it's so important. And as I said at the start, if it's not broke, unless there's a fatal flaw, if somebody's dropping the ball from the right hand to the left foot and it's been perfectly executed, why should you change it? Unless something's going wrong, then fix it. Errors are part of the learning process. How many errors before a child can walk? It's not right. So you'll make mistakes. Young ones will make mistakes and mistakes and mistakes. And eventually, if you keep encouraging and keep spotting and fixing and then practicing at home, then they'll master it. Knowledge is no substance for being caring. So important. Creating a positive learning environment. You can't beat that. And players and children, people might not remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that is such a true statement. Such a true statement that players that maybe at any level will say that, the caring coach, the coach that's encouraging and that's good to their players and as I say, saying the right things and being caring, it's hard to beat, very hard to beat. And there's resources you can get, coaches, that will give you all the drills and activities and games you want. There's so much stuff there. If you go onto Ulster GAA YouTube, if you go onto any of them things, websites there, you can get a lot of stuff. Questions there, Oisín?
Yeah, Tony, thank you. Very good presentation as always. With plenty of questions come in, plenty of engagement throughout. We'll start off here with a few questions in around ladies football. Any tips to get adult ladies to kick of either the instep or the outside of the boot, as many have only been coached to kick off the laces?
Say that again, Oisín, sorry.
Do you have any tips to get adult ladies to kick off either the instep or the outside of the boot, as many have only been coached to kick the punt pass off the laces?
Funny, that's a great question. That is a great question. I come from a club that is all codes here, hurling football, ladies football, and camogie and all. And that's a great question. And I watch the girls train and play times, and sometimes I feel they use the punt kick through the laces a lot, more so than the instep. Now I'm not so sure what you, as I said even in their presentation here, you wouldn't be spending hours and hours on the outside of the bit, and you only have them twice a week, whatever. So what I'm saying is, maybe the outside of the bit is something that they should be practicing themselves in their spare time. I wouldn't be spending a heap of time on it. But I'll tell you one thing: see the inside of the foot. Funny, I asked a couple of high prominent ladies that plays at county level that question, and their answer to me was, believe it or not, that it doesn't be coached. Well, I may be wrong in saying this. Maybe there's ladies coaches on here tonight saying it does. They do coach it. There was a couple of girls told me it doesn't be coached as much as it's coached with the boys. So that's the only reason they don't use it. And my advice, if there's any ladies coaches on tonight, my advice is to coach the instep, the inside of the foot pass, because the way Gaelic football's going now, if you look at the bodies working hard and getting behind the ball, there's very little space. And if you look at the good teams, they use this wee soft pass, the wee cushion pass with the inside of the foot, wee 30-yard kick dink passes inside 30 or 35 yards. And there's less of maybe these long kicks that you need to kick through the lists with. So what I'm saying is, my advice is coach the instep pass in girls football as much as boys football. Yes, there's the punt pass. Yes, coach that too, but don't forget it. Spend plenty of time at the instep, then inside the foot pass.
Perfect, thank you. Next one we'll have in here is how much shooting should be done under pressure in training?
99.9% of it. Yeah. Why I'm saying that, coaches, is, and I'm a wild believer in this. Yes, maybe a day leading up to a match, and you don't want to get any injuries, and you want to do a nice wee light session or whatever. Yes, you can do a wee bit on a post shooting. Yes, no problem, absolutely. And players should be out doing their own wee bit of shooting practice on the post themselves. But it's hard to get the real match live stuff that will happen. Where do you ever get a handy shot in a match without pressure being on you? So what I'm saying is, you have to season your players in thinning. That when it comes to a match, it'll become easy to them. They'll be have them under pressure thinning, and then if they're fit to do it at thinning, there's a better chance of them doing it in a match. But if they're doing it on a post and thinning, they could get a hell of a shot come a match, and they just wouldn't have the time to kick the point is handy or whatever the case to be. So what I'm saying is, hard a bit pressure on when you're shooting on the thinning. But as I say, there's times and places that you have to do a wee bit on a post stuff too, as I say, leading up to important matches.
Good stuff, thank you. So the next one in here, do you think individualism is being coached out of forwards nowadays?
Great question. Great question. Yes, I do. I really do, coaches. I know it's a different ball game from years ago when I was playing or whatever. But to me, the hard I would have played in the full back line a lot. And the hardest player to mark, as far as I was concerned, was a player that, if he got the ball in front of you, well, you're always trying to get to the ball, but there's times you're never going to get the ball. But I always say the best way to defend is, the best way to tackle is to try to win the ball or get a hand on or whatever, get a hand to the ball, because second phase possession for the forward line is usually, it doesn't end up in a score against you. So if you can knock the ball away or get out in front and get two hands, but if a player gets the ball in front of you and then he goes further out the field and passes it further out the field or square, then that's what you want him to do. But I always found the hardest player to mark was a boy or whatever the case to be, winning the ball in front of you and turning, and as much as saying to you, looking at you and saying as much as saying to you, I'm going to go by you, boy. And see a player that really wanted to take you on times and drop a shoulder. God, you need to be at your wits and you need to be a good tackler to turn that ball over, because if he's tricky on his feet and sharp, I always found them players were harder to mark. So yes, I think that individual thing is sort of out of the game. I don't know why. I think if you have a forward or two, you can go by players. It's a great asset for your team, because you're on goal, number one, or you're going to be fouled, and it's a score. So yes, I would love to see more. I'd love to see coaches encouraging individual play times too. Absolutely, it's getting the balance right, Oisín. It's knowing when to go when you haven't got that option. It's different if there's somebody going by your shouldered pace. Slap it, absolutely slap it. But you don't have that support immediately all the time. So that's the times, instead of going further out the field and passing it back, that's the time why not go for it. Be adventurous. Yes, I agree with it. Coach it.
Perfect, thank you. So we've a few more here. We've plenty of engagement tonight, which is good.
Yes.
There's one here. Should all children be encouraged to kick with both feet, and should there be a focus on developing the punt pass or the hook pass at a young age?
First of all, yes, I might answer that. Yes, but not too young. Wait till the master their stronger foot first. Don't be putting a child onto their weak foot and they're not able to even drop the ball onto their foot or whatever the case will be. Don't even, because get them onto their stronger foot when they're able to. Remember the fundamentals. They mightn't even be ready for that age group 4 to 7. They mightn't even be ready to do a toe tap. So what I'm saying is, or to kick a ball. So whenever they're ready, get them on the stronger side. And whenever they master that, yes, get them. Yes, but without boring them, without all their session. Just get them to practice their weaker side, but make sure they've mastered one side first before you put them onto the weaker side. And then when they start getting onto it, you can start playing. Whenever they're good at it, maybe at 10 or 11, if things are done right, a wee boy or a girl at 11 or 12, whatever the case be, should be coming on very well, and you can play wee games there, sock up, sock down. What I mean by that is, if you're refereeing a wee game, sock up for strong side, at least they're on their strong side, or sock up for their weak side, whatever the case be. When you referee the game, when they're going against you, if you're telling them to play all weak side, whatever the case be. But you don't have to play too long of games, just be 5-minute games, maybe on the weak side, just to get them used to it. But wait till don't do it at 6 and 7 and 8 years of age. They're not ready for it. Get them onto their strongest side first, or whatever, and get them mastering that first of all. What was your other part of the question, Oisín?
The second part was, would you focus on, with the younger players, would you focus on learning the punt pass or the hook pass, or probably both together?
You'd have to. Now the hook. Now see the hook. The hook is a hook kick for score. The inside of the boot is a different. It's not when you're past the ball, as we talked about earlier. That this inside of the boot, the cushion pass. The hook's the one for the score. The punt is the one for the longer pass, the hard foot, tightened up your foot and whatever it is, toe up or toe down, whatever the case may be. You'd practice them all. Absolutely, practice them all. But I'm telling you see that instep, in a match situation, the instep pass is being used a lot now, as I said to you. Definitely. So practice the instep. And of course, practice the punt too. You practice them all and whatever. But all I'm saying to you is, give plenty of thought to the instep.
Brilliant. So the next one here we'll have is, if you were coaching a team, how would you try and encourage them to get scores from the right position on the pitch? So like the scoring position or scoring zone you talked about earlier. Would there be any tips of how to get the team to try and shoot from that?
Yes, just condition games and training, full games, whatever the case to be, full games coaches or condition games, whatever the case to be, and mark out an area round the goals the way I was drawing that area there, and I'd mark that out with wee markers and just condition the game that you have to be inside that before you score. Simple as that they have to work the ball inside that area before they score. So it's just marking out your wee area with markers. We know them wee flexible markers that you can step on and they go into the ground, not them hard ones because you could break an ankle very handy or whatever. So just wee flexible markers, just mark out your area like a half moon around the goals. And as I say, that half moon will be different for different age levels. If you're working with under 12s or under 14s, then that half moon becomes smaller because a child of that age can't kick the ball from inside the 45 over the bar, whatever the case may be. So you have to make sure the scoring zone is smaller. It can be. I talk about when I'm doing it with 16s and 18s and seniors, you're about 20 steps out from each post, and then you take the semicircle out to about 2 or 3. At the point of the semicircle, will be 2 or 3 steps inside the 45, roughly around that. But for younger ones, you'd have it a lot. You'd have that. You wouldn't have the point of the circle out towards the 45. You'd have just outside the D or around the D or whatever the case would be. So whatever age group. But again, that's how you work it. Just play your game and train and make sure you mark out the area in the field and they have to work that ball inside that scoring area before they can score. So they can't shoot from outside it because they're not going to get a score for it. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. We'll finish here with 2 more, so we'll finish here with these last 2. Can all players become proficient scorers if they get the correct coaching, or is there shooters and non-shooters in a team?
Oh, God save us, coaches. Everybody can score. Not like years ago. Maybe in the full back line you weren't allowed up. But hey, even back then you'd have got an opportunity. But see now, modern day, there's no such a thing as who's the shooters and who's the defenders and who's the tacklers or what. Everybody, you have to coach every player in the field that they can score. So if you're able to do, if every player on the field can score, you're going to be hard to beat. And if every team if every player in your field can tackle, chase, tackle, turn ball over, work hard, work ethic, then you will be hard to beat. If you look at all them, they talk about the great teams here at county and club, but what is the key ingredient they have? Work ethic. You look at their corner forwards, you look at their wing forwards, their centre forwards. They work so hard. You look at their cornerbacks, you look at their fullbacks. They drive forward whenever their team has possession. They drive forward off the shoulder, over the bar, maybe into the net. So they all attack, they all defend. I'm not saying you put everybody behind the ball, but I'm saying is in your area of the field, if the ball is there, you got to chase it down. Even if you're a corner forward, you're not standing up there with your hands and your hunches. You got to get back. You got to get tackles in. You got to put pressure when the man on the ball coming out of his defence. So, what I'm saying to you, sorry, I went on too long here, but all I'm saying to you is, yes, every player in the field has to be able to score. So everybody should be practicing their scoring, and again, as I said to you, everybody should be practicing the tackling.
Perfect. Now, last one's a bit of an age-old question here. So, should frees be hit from the hand or off the ground?
No, I'm sure you'll be surprised, coaches, what I said to this here, because you'll be thinking I'm an old timer, which I am. And back in the day, at the start when I was playing, it was off the ground, absolutely. I would be saying now. I would be saying I honestly like the free from the hand. I do. I'm not so sure. Yes, off the ground maybe doesn't be practiced enough now in teams, and you don't have too many players who can kick a ball off the ground from 30, 35 yards out over the bar. Now, very few has them. So I think, well, especially now with the new rules, coaches, and the mark and all that anybody who catches a mark or catches the ball inside the opposition's half the field, or if the ball is kicked from outside and it goes outside the 45 and it goes 20 meters or whatever, you can take a mark now. So that has to be from the hand. So what I'm saying is, quite honestly, I like the frees from the hand, even a normal free, a foul. I like it from the hand myself. I would coach players to kick from the hand, even though people will say you don't have the ball's not as steady when it's going down onto the foot, but that's from the ground. But I'm telling you, the ground kick is it's an art, and then the pitches are not great a shape now, and there's the grass. Sometimes the grass can be just, you can't even maybe put the ball onto tougher grass to get your toe underneath it for the kick. So what I'm saying is I like the kick from the hand, even though I'm sure there's teams and players and coaches would like it from the ground.
Perfect, Tony. Thank you very much.
Coaches, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And as I said to you, hopefully you took some out of that tonight, and hopefully it was worthwhile to you. So thank you. And as I said to anybody, till link up to the conference on Saturday, you might pick up some. So thank to all the coaches. Thanks to Oisin for hosting the session, and we'll see you all shortly again. Thank you, and keep safe. Bye.